Well, I'm hoping that as I record this, you can hear me okay over the sound of the fans humming in the background. You see, we are going through a hot spell this week, and we have temperatures in the mid 90s and high humidity, and we do not have air conditioning in our sweet old lovely farmhouse. Now, I'm not complaining. There are some pros to not having air conditioning, and that is you don't become acclimated to the cool temperatures. And so outside is not as bad as working inside. That is a positive, right? So we have a lot of fans going in our house, a lot of window fans and floor fans blowing in all sorts of directions to try and keep air flowing and to try and take advantage of the cool evening temperatures and cooling the inside of the house out. So I apologize again if there is background noise, but I will sweat to death if I don't have fans blowing on me right now. So today I wanted to share with you a little bit of the state of my mind, what's been going on in my head, the thoughts that have kind of been consuming me, and just where I feel in life right now. I feel like we have been living in a season of transitions, and for quite a long time. I feel like our family has been in such a constant state of big transitions for so many years, and I'm not even sure if we know how to function without some sort of inconsistency thrown into the mix. But I am diligently working to change that. So I want to take you back a few years to where things really started to get, maybe you would call it unpredictable. A little over 6 years ago, I was pregnant with our fifth baby, and we had just taken in a sibling group of 2 young boys, ages 3 and 5, to foster until their home life was better situated. They had come from a home with neglect, both physically and emotionally. There wasn't like physical abuse, but just neglect. Their mother was struggling to be able to handle 2 young boys, and I think just emotionally tapped out. So there was a lot of neglect going on. These kids were not bad. They were just a lot of work. So I had to teach them a lot of the foundations, like how to hold utensils when you're eating. They would eat with their fingers. How to sit at the table and eat properly. How to wash themselves up in the bathtub, and how to brush their teeth. And the younger of the 2 boys was not potty trained. He was still in diapers, and so I was working on potty training him. And, there is nothing quite like a 3-year-old pooping in his diaper and making no effort to change that. So, he struggled with failure to thrive as a child, as a baby. So obviously at 3 years old, he was still struggling with that. And he wouldn't do really anything himself, like to help himself. So I had to help feed him because he would hardly eat anything. I mean, it was bad. He was skinny and just wouldn't eat. So I just had to do all of the things that need to be done to try and help these boys to behave in age-appropriate manners. So as much as that might sound like I'm complaining, I'm not. Fostering really was a blessing for me because I would get so much joy out of bringing these children to our home and providing them with experiences, both with lifestyle and home and family, that they never had experienced before. So like my own children, my foster children were never shoved in front of screens to pacify them. They were outside collecting eggs, playing with the dogs, feeding sheep, helping me milk the cow, playing on tree swings and trampolines and slip and slides in the rainstorms, and exploring through creeks and mud. So they were all out just living life, all the farm life stuff that we do around here. They were expected, however, to participate in family chores as well, and they were given various responsibilities based upon their maturity and responsibility level. They got to experience a family unit and how we work and fellowship together, which is something that they'd never experienced. So after those two boys moved on, we immediately took in an older sibling group of 3. They were ages 9, 11, and 12 years old, and the older 2 being boys. This placement was one that my family and I prayed over for a few months. We did not want children older than our own children, and certainly not older boys. However, we were given confirmation multiple times from God. He had given us scripture and given us confirmation from friends in the church. So I'm not going to go into any real details today because this whole case was so very complicated and it's a long, long story. But basically, in a nutshell, these 3 children had been in and out of foster care their entire lives. They were a typical case of neglect. They bounced around foster homes because they had behavioral problems and they had been split up into different homes. So social services was looking for a family to adopt all 3 of them together, and that's where we came into the picture. Anyway, I say all this to bring up the topic of transition in life and how I've managed and how I've failed. At our old home, I had a very good system for managing housework and keeping up the home. I had tasks that each child could do to pull their weight and a very detailed and broken down system for me to keep it clean. My house was by no means perfect, but it was definitely manageable. Once we moved to our new farm, 9 children and a full homestead with all the animals, mind you, I had to completely start over from scratch with how the home was managed and run, all while managing ever-growing personalities and attitudes from teens who were going through puberty with mental and behavioral struggles. So a lot of my time was spent on phone calls and going to therapy and all the things that come with being a foster parent. We also went from managing and maintaining 20 acres with a couple acres of usable pasture to over 100 acres and over 50 acres of usable pasture. We were running on overdrive and survival mode between the farm and the foster children, and also trying to be there emotionally for my children, which was a huge struggle for me. And then, to top it all off, let's not forget that my husband also switched jobs, and he went from working as a mechanic with the same company for over 16 years to starting a company with his brother in which he was managing the field and jobs. It's a super stressful job for him right now. He's having to completely change roles from mechanic to manager. So again, I'm not getting into the insane details of this case, but after 4 years of being a part of our family, DSS decided that they needed to remove our 3 foster children from our home because our new old farmhouse was not passing the home inspection for foster care. They said it was perfectly fine for our own children, but having your home certified for foster care requires a stringent list of requirements that our poor 250-year-old farmhouse could not meet without extensive work and money. And I had made that clear before we moved that I don't think this house is going to pass inspection. And they really tried working with us, but we got to a point where we did not have the tens of thousands of dollars to put in to the house to make it suitable for what they wanted. So they decided to put the children into respite care. Side note though, we do still keep in contact with the kids, and they come visit us periodically, and they still call us mom and dad. So it's not like they have dropped out of our lives. We do talk to them on the phone, and one of the older boys, he spent Christmas over at our house with us. So it is a really sweet relationship that we still are able to have with them. So again, though, that is just another state of transition, and it's been less than 2 years now that all that happened. And we've gone through waves of order and creating systems, but still nowhere near what needs to be done to be in a good place. And I know that you can't just do a complete 180 and just start, everything just come into place. So we've been picking away at it a little bit at a time. I have meetings with my husband and with my family, with the kids, and just say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to change. So we're a work in progress. I know that a well-run home doesn't happen overnight or with just a little adjusting, but I do find myself in a state where the farm has taken priority because we've poured ourselves into getting infrastructure up for the animals and needing to utilize the land that we have now. But my home and family needs some more attention from me. Now that we are having another baby coming in 3 months, I can't believe it. I find myself needing to shift the pendulum a bit to balance myself better. I've been hustling to get the farm and animals in a place where I can step back during these next few challenging months of being in my third trimester in the hot summer with no air conditioning. I'm not complaining. I'm being real, and it's just going to be hard. It's okay. But I'm now needing to focus on getting my home in a better place. And are you ready for this? Getting rid of clutter. Ta-da! I desperately need my home to be easier to manage. I don't have any desire to spend so much time cleaning and picking things up. So I'm going through my home and I'm giving it a massive purge, something I haven't done fully in years. Even when we moved to this new farm, we didn't really purge much because it happened so fast and we didn't know what we would need with all of our children. We just started boxing everything up and just bringing it over here, which I know it was a bad move, but that's just how it happened. So now that we are no longer active in foster care, that means I can purge all of the copious amounts of children's clothing that I've been hanging on to. Things like extra jackets and snow clothes and boots and bedding, things like that unless you have lots of extra children, you just don't need. I mean, my kids need one jacket, maybe 2 winter jackets, and that's it. We don't need 5 or 6. So over the course of the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be going through a massive home and schedule and priority reset, and I'll bring you along with me and show you how I'm doing that. And all the while as I prepare for a new baby. And I also will just mention here briefly that we are starting the very beginning process of planning an addition on our home. I know that I need to get what I have under control before adding more physical house to manage. The extra space will be much needed, but it won't be the answer to my struggles in managing a home well. So those are the things that I would like to sort out now before we have more space and more things to manage. So talk about living in a constant state of transition. There are still things like here, us planting blueberries and tending to the garden and taking animals to the butcher shop and all of the farm things that need to be done that I'm not planning on stopping at all. But I have been hustling to get a lot of extra things done in a short period of time. And so therefore, I am just trying to spend a little less time outside doing those chores, a little more time inside doing more homekeeping and just getting my house in order. But as you can see here, blueberries are not going to wait for my house to be clean. So the girls are helping me plant some blueberries. I have planted, oh my goodness, it's probably 80 to 100 blueberry plants. So I had a friend that said, oh, I don't put up bird netting to protect my blueberry plants from birds. I just plant so many blueberries that there is no need for me to do that. The birds take what they want and I take what I want. So I had a few blueberry plants die last year. I think it's because I didn't water them fully. Anyway, so I am just replanting some of those blueberry plants, and the girls are finding some strawberries in the garden, and so that is the task at hand right now. here we are moving on to unloading an order of grain. I used to order the grain in bulk. Remember the totes that I got that I left out in the rain? Yeah, so see, I decided that totes might not just be the best thing for me right now. That was such a loss, losing all of that grain to mold. And so I just decided, you know what, especially during the summer months, we're not going through grain quite as quickly. I take that back. We're going through grain at the same speed, but because the grain lasts so long in the totes, it'll last us, a month to 2 months. I do not want the grains sitting out in the heat of the summer. I'd much rather have freshly milled grains every couple weeks. So I think I'm going to go back to the totes during the fall and winter months, but I have decided that during the summer months, I am just going to order small bags and just go pick them up and unload them. And come on, I need to stay in shape during this pregnancy. So what a great way to do that, by lifting 50-pound bags of feed and salt blocks. Am I right? Got to keep this baby strong. So this was our first batch of broilers that we raised this year. And as I had mentioned in another video, this batch I raised much earlier than I have ever raised birds. Normally I wait until, oh my goodness, April to May maybe? I want to say about that. This batch I got, was it February or March? It was so much earlier, because I was anxious to get a first batch of broilers going, because in my store I had run out of chicken breast. So I needed to get all of my chicken restocked. And I thought, what better thing to do than get a fresh start bright and early in the spring? Okay, late winter. So what I realized is, because the temperatures were just still so cold, no matter how many heat lamps I put in the brooder, I just don't feel like they did as well. So I have learned my lesson, and I am now not going to be starting chickens that early, and I will be waiting until the temperatures are a little bit warmer so that I don't have to deal with, slow weight gain. I know I get a lot of video footage of my animals grazing, but keep in mind, I am someone that has been such an advocate for 100% grass-fed beef and lamb. Like, I think that these ruminant animals thrive on grass, and they should thrive on grass. We should not need to be feeding them grain. And so I went from a small farm that only had a couple acres of pasture, and we were doing everything that we could to make it work, and we did have to supplement with grain. And I am so excited to have the amount of property right now that I can put my animals out on this grass and let them eat everything that they want to eat, and it just brings me such joy. So I know you might not understand why I love taking videos of my cows, but it's because I just love the fresh grass, really. I think that's what it is. And this pesky one that keeps getting out. But look at this. This is just beautiful. And then my crazy chickens. Another thing that I just think is so beautiful. Tell you what, there is so much in life to just look at and appreciate. Driving down the lane and seeing the birds all happy, scratching up the dirt, eating the bugs. It's well worth all of the hard work. As long as the chickens don't run underneath my side-by-side and get squished. Have a wonderful weekend and a week, and have a wonderful day. God bless you all so much. Thanks for watching.